Stan Zylowski. Stan Zylowski I've gotten to know him better through our CO Tech Forum that Innovate Arkansas helped their leadership help create a tech forum so that we could gather the CEOs, and they kind of helped sponsor it, but we took our model and helped them develop it. Mike Smith's this incredible chair of that CEO Tech Forum up here, and Stan's a member, and he's just every month he just gives so much to the group and so brilliant, and he's got a high growth tech venture here that he's going to talk a little about, and he's got a very interesting perspective to share with you, and I think you'll be happy you joined us. So Stan Zylowski, take it away.
Good morning, everyone. Really grateful to be here, and that's the second time Sydney was on our CEO call this week, and second time I've gotten to listen to him. That the inclusion is a big part of what we work really hard to do. In fact, I've got some metrics in here about inclusion. It's something that we're really mindful of and deliberate about. So near and dear to my heart. Really great to hear Sydney today.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do today, first, I'm just going to take 5 minutes up front because I want to talk about culture today and developing a culture that does embrace inclusion and several other things. Sort of before I do, I don't know all of you. I've met some of you and appreciate the work that you're doing in your respective areas. But what I wanted to do first was just make sure that you all sort of know who we were and what we were up to. This isn't a commercial as much as it is sort of and why maybe what we talk about today, it might drive benefit for you and sort of talk about how it's driven benefit for us. But Movista is a software company, and at the end of the day, like any other for-profit enterprise, we exist to solve problems for clients. The particular problem that we solve for the retail sector is the fact that there's a lot of technology they ask folks to use. You familiar with some of this stuff, whether they're using SurveyMonkey or Dropbox or some sort of a scheduling engine, and then maybe I'm sending somewhere else to do their payroll or somewhere else to do their expense reporting. And so what our product does is a platform that takes, from the user's perspective, it takes all of those different functions. So for instance, what's my schedule? Where do you want me to go now? How do I get there most efficiently? What am I supposed to do when I get there? Where are the files I need to do my job? All of that, and it pushes it through one pane of glass, one single mobile application. And it's just that simple, really. It's taking someone from an environment where they have 7 icons they need to bounce between to get their work done to where they have one single integrated experience. And then we handle the hard work on the back end of pushing and pulling the data around so that worker can actually be productive and producing work and having a delightful experience relative to the other. And we do that for lots of clients. We sort of provide this family of activities, and it's all kind of inside baseball if you're not in retail. And quite honestly, it's probably the least sexy job and the least sexy piece of software in the world. I have a 10 and 15-year-old son, and they start falling asleep every time I start talking about it. Although I will share a funny anecdote. They're doing interviews right now with via Zoom with the kids from the office because they're putting together a little montage, and they did a video with my 10-year-old son. And afterwards, I asked Carl, our marketing guy, I said, "How'd it go?" And he said, "Oh, he's great. I look forward to working for him someday." So it's funny to be at a small company where we can talk like that, but it's also a close-knit group. So just to give you an idea, this is a sampling of our client base. We're just a little company that April and I started. We, if you don't know, we were born at the University of Arkansas in the new venture development class with Dr. Reeves. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of our metrics in a moment, but over time, we really established a phenomenal user base and a really strong company from a financial perspective. But more importantly to me, and what I want to talk about today, is what we've created in terms of community. So I put together a few sort of top line stats to explain why I think what we do here is special. and why I think it's worthy of consideration as to how you might apply it elsewhere. And it's been a lot of work and a lot of learning from a lot of resources. But here's just a few top line. I won't read all these to you, but probably the two most important things, in my opinion, you can do as a company is to attract and maintain client relationships, and also to attract and maintain great relationships with your workforce. And so we've got, to give you an idea, usually in a software as a services firm, that means you're literally renting our software. So think of it like Dropbox or something else. It's just on an enterprise level. We have a 99% renewal rate. A really, really great churn rate in our space would probably be 70% or 30% churn on a year-over-year basis. So we're well eclipsing that. I don't have to tell you about employee churn. We have 102 employees now. It was April and I in the strip mall in the very beginning. So that's just sort of mind-boggling when you look back on it. For the last 6 years before COVID, we had about a 35% compounded annual growth rate. You saw the brands that we serve. Importantly for our region, and Ross certainly recognizes this through the work that he does, we were able to attract, first of all, a lot of money in state. I say a lot, it's all relative, but here in Arkansas and in the surrounding region, we had raised about $3.5 million before we did a big round with Level Equity, which is a New York-based company. So for us to be able to go to New York and attract investment into this region and into the state was a big deal. We were super proud of that. It was great for us, but honestly, as I think about it and I actually have chill bumps, it was so much bigger for us as a state and a region. Then the next thing, and this sort of ties back to what Sydney was talking about, obviously April is a female co-founder, which is gigantic. And if you don't know April, she's a force of nature. She works twice as hard as I do. She's probably twice as smart as I am. When we first started working together, I was 35 and she was 25, and she learned everything I knew and didn't tell me a single thing she knew. So now she knows way more than I do. And she's
a great partner, isn't she?
She's amazing. She's really amazing person. But it's not just April in our company, and we work really hard. We have a purposeful effort to we butt up some of the same things that you were talking about, Ross, in the previous call. We butt up against them. There's not a lot of women in technology in the hard coding areas, right? There are minorities, especially if you're looking at non-Black minorities, but we actively promote and interview those candidates, trying to make sure that we keep a good diverse base. And we don't do that because it looks good. We do that because we find that it makes us a better company. It gives us a much richer view of the world and a much more broad contextual understanding of what our clients want and need. Because we're a tech company, we about 65% of our 102 employees, so roughly 65 folks, are in the technology realm. They're developers, they're architects, they're engineers. They are super smart, capable, well paid individuals. And we because of that, our average pay for an employee is about 2.5 times the state average, and that includes a 13-person call center. So which is obviously going to be much more entry level, type work. And then I think most importantly, and the thing aside from the fact that, I look at how many holiday seasons, I usually say Christmases, but to be fair, holiday seasons we have been able to provide. And so well over 1,000 holiday seasons and family vacations and summer trips have been enabled by this company existing, and that's basically man years that we've had employees here in the company. And that's the biggest thing for me, is how are we really impacting the families and the lives of the people who work here and are associated with us. And we've been really lucky, and I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the nonprofit stuff that we've done. But I want to be clear again. Stan has done very little of this. I always say, if you want something to actually happen, you want to talk to April. If you want to talk about something or kick the ball around, I'm pretty good at that. But we've been recognized for some of the philanthropic stuff that we've done. I'm going to touch on a couple of those things. But what I want to spend just an extra minute here talking about is our values. If you look around our office, every single place in our office, every it's on the wall. It's on the wall behind me. Every employee gets this card. We talk about these values every day. No employee that I've interviewed or hired in probably 6 or 7 years didn't sit down with me personally and go through these values. And this is what's guided us through this insane year that we've just gone through. It was funny yesterday when I was talking to Tim. He said, a quote he said was, I think it was from Jack Welch. I think who was it, Tim, that said, if you know our values, you won't need any assistance making a decision. You can just live.
Right. Yeah, Bill Hanna Oil and Gas worked real hard on their core values, and just a great company. And he said, I think any coworker could make about any decision without a lot of input if they just go to our core values.
I love that so much. So we hire with these. So I thought I'd just take a minute and sort of walk you all through them and how we apply them in the business. The first one is transparency. It's not always popular to be transparent. It's not always popular to be forthright with people, but it's our way. And that is a hallmark of talking to someone at Movista or having us serve you, or of trying to sell me something. What you see is what you get. I'm pretty much the same dude at the grocery store or church or down at the university or wherever. We expect the same thing out of our employees. Duplicity is, to me, about the worst thing you can have, because it erodes trust. It erodes trust between us, and then and certainly if you're looking outward, by the time a customer catches you in an untruth, you're done, right? You stick a fork in you, you're done. So we talk a lot about transparency, and transparency is tough for some people. I will tell you that there is a major corporation in town, and we will recruit people from that. And when they get here, it takes a while to deprogram them from the feeling that they need to be political. I'm not apolitical. I'm anti-political, right? Just tell me what the score is. I don't even care who's winning, but if I don't know what the score is, I don't know what the heck to do next. So that's number one. The second one is maniacal customer success. I don't know any other way to be successful. I've never tried another way, and because I always found great success before we ever even found Movista by always trying to be on the side of the client mentally, and always trying to consider how what I'm going to do next or not going to do next is going to impact them or their business. And, Sam talked about this obviously first, right? Like the customer's number one, but there's a difference too between believing that the customer is number one and being maniacal about serving the customer. One of them will say, okay, in a tiebreaker, the customer is going to win. But what I want and expect from our employees is that they are truly trying to be completely empathetic to the customer's position. And then they're trying to be proactive as opposed to reactive in terms of making sure that client's happy. That's how you get 99% renewal rates. I promise you that our software breaks. It does. All software breaks. There are bugs in our software. There's bugs in all software. But when you're maniacal about serving the client, it's very, very difficult for them to let you go. Because that's the difference. That's the real key difference, I think, between us and our competitors in the space, is our commitment to customer success. The third one goes much more back to, this is where Sydney's message comes in. I honestly know, and I think someone said this earlier, I know that inherently somewhere in me and in all of us, there is an ingrained, bigotry or racism or all of those things, right? But I certainly fight it every second of every day. And I really have zero, I don't care if you're gay. I don't care if you're straight. I don't care if you're born in India or Mexico or Lowell. I don't care. What I care about is, can you put the biscuit in the basket? Can you do the job every day? Can you treat your coworker with respect? And that is absolutely, I mean, we have definitely moved people out of the organization purposefully because they simply could not be a good neighbor, or they clearly had some sort of issue that they couldn't get over in the workplace. We hire for it and we fire for it. The fourth one, which always gets the biggest chuckle, and in proper company, I don't say all this, but it's basically figure it out, right? The F word is an expletive, or the second F is an expletive. And the idea is we want employees at the company who can be an army of one. It's funny. I'll tell you a story of a particular employee who came in, and she was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and did a great job in the interview. And, there's things that I don't even ask anymore. Well, I probably started again, but there are requisite expectations for someone who's coming in making, say, 65, 70 grand a year. Like, for instance, how to use Excel, how to use Outlook. Like, these aren't things that I ask people about, right? Anyway, she was super excited when we made her a good job offer, and she came in and she started working. Within about 4 weeks, it was quite obvious that the person who interviewed and the skill set that was represented was not the same as the reality. So I went on the front porch. And by the way, you don't ever want to go on the front porch with me. That's usually not a good sign because I want privacy. And we go outside, and I said, listen, I told her what I just told you. Like, this is who I interviewed. This is where we are. This isn't working. I'm sorry. We're going to have to make a change, and we're going to have to split part ways. And she said, well, I'm not leaving. And I said, actually, I was pretty taken aback. I was like, well, what does that mean? When you say you're not leaving, you mean like I'm going to have to get the police to move you off the campus, or what are you telling me here? And she said, no, tell me what you will pay me based on what you know about me now, because I don't want to leave the company. I just want to stay here. I love that story for a lot of reasons, obviously, but one of the main reasons was just the impact we were able to have on that young lady and allow her to then come back and learn how to problem solve on her own. So generally speaking, inside the company, you never want to bring a problem unless you're bringing at least one idea for a solution. And what's great about this one too is there's a lot of cross accountability. And then the fifth one is giving back. So what we do is we give every employee 5 hours a month on the clock. Some leave on a Tuesday at noon, some leave on Friday at noon, whatever. And the only thing we require is that they go do something in the community. And I really don't care if they go hold a protest sign, or if they go volunteer at the women's shelter, or what they do. It's totally up to them, and we don't mandate it, and we don't tell them what to do. We'll give them opportunities, but we don't mandate it. And interestingly, when COVID hit, the very first thing the team came to us and said is, we want to figure out how we can help. I mean, and not one or two of them, but en masse. How can we help? What can we do to help? And so the net of that was we did two kind of interesting things. One was we took our product, which is used every day to say, how many cans of so-and-so or where inside a store, and we quickly adapted it and created what we call Project Help, which has been allowing depending on the day, between 60 and 100,000 workers a day are getting help screens through the application. Now, we did that for our clients, but we also made it available absolutely free to nonprofits. So the U.S. track and field team today, literally today, is using our platform for all of their athletes to do their health screens. And we don't charge them a dime for it. Love to talk about it. Of course, there's benefit to the company because we have that marketing benefit. But we have a lot of nonprofits who are using us. We've been working with schools and so forth. And I don't know that we can ever extract some sort of financial value from doing that. But man, does it feel good to go out and do it. The other thing we did is our developers got together, and some of you helped us with this, and developed this gift card program. So no one understood how long and how deeply restaurants were going to be impacted. I happen to be in the restaurant business too, so I have felt it. But thanks to the Tyson Family Foundation, as well as the Pat and Willard Walker Foundation, they matched our gift card purchases, and we were able to raise $100,000 for local businesses. And also they matched that with a contribution into NWA Gives. So $200,000 in total were raised off that site. And that was all 100% given by our team in effort, et cetera, to get her done. And
that was your speed to market on that was amazing. You were like the first gift card, where you could really go and get it done, right?
Well, I'll tell you all. I'll tell you all a quick backstory because it's just us kids, and this is an April story. We did it, and the night that we got done doing the big day of sales, which is like 75 of it, PayPal suspended our account. Said that we were up to no good, and said that they were not going to pay out the money to the restaurants. They wouldn't let us dispense the money. And we were like, what? So April, April's April. April said, okay. And she got on her email and she started sending emails out to people she knew that were well-placed corporately. And before midnight that night, we had a letter from the CEO saying, I'll take care of this in the morning. And they released all of our funds and everything the next morning at 8 o'clock and said, but you can't sell any more gift cards through PayPal. It's a big, long story. We weren't violating anything. It's whatever. Wow. It's just fun though. I love that story that because of where we live, it ended up being someone, at a nearby major company who knew the person at PayPal, right? And you work that out. But that's why the site ended up going down. But before it did, it was a lot of good that was done for the local deal. And what I love about that story is, again, I go back to this, like, Stan and April did not tell them to go do this. This is the team saying, what can we do and how quickly can we do it, and putting their labor against it. Yeah. And then the last one, which is, those of you who know me and have hung out with me know, I like to have a good time. I like to have fun, like to laugh. And this doesn't, a lot of people sometimes will take this to mean that we're up here, boozing it away. We do have a beer. We have two different ways to get beer in here, but that's not what this means. It just means we like to have fun. We like to have office wiffle ball games. We have a basketball court, and we have a ping pong table. And, if you've ever been to our offices, if you haven't, please come by. We're in the Ice House in Bentonville, but I'm looking out of course I'm here by myself, but I'm looking out the door, and it's a bunch of bikes on the wall, and it's, Golden Tea Machine, all that stuff. I feel like if you're going to have to go to work every day, you're going to do it in a much healthier and happier way if you are exercising your body as much as your brain. So being in Bentonville has been really helpful for that. So anyway, those are our values. I love to talk about them. I love to share them. And if there's anything in there that becomes a nugget that can be used somewhere else, then great. I'm all for that. And we certainly are so thrilled, not just to be doing what we're doing, but to be doing it here in this community and with amazing people who are so into making the world a better place. So so your team knew you believed in these core values, and they were able to respond even during such adversity, and know that what they were doing was the right thing to be doing, right? Yeah, I mean, Tim, I want to make sure everybody understands this. Like, and I'm not meaning in any way to be challenging to what you said, but these aren't my values. These are our values. Right. We hire for them. Right. And that's a big, big difference. It's a difference between us saying, this is what I think, so now you go do that. It's everyone here is bought into this. I'll tell you this. So we had, it's been a tough financial year for us. And like a lot of companies, we've had to go stretches where we impacted compensation. And so we pulled the company together and we said, listen, for 8 weeks to make it through this year and stay and keep our financial house in order and all that, for 8 weeks, we're going to go to 80-20 on pay. 80% of pay, everybody, me included, of course. I mean, all the execs, everybody. But we also said in that same meeting, if you have a hardship and this is going to put you in the lurch, come talk to us. We'll deal with it.
That's great.
So we had 4 people come to us and say, you know, whatever the case, a medical situation, or my spouse just got laid off, because this was late in the year. And we said, no problem. You know, we got it. No questions asked. 2-minute conversation. Don't think another thing about it. Go back to work. We had 10 people, 10
That's
people
great.
come in and say, I can live on less. If it means that we keep the team together and we don't have to make layoffs, I don't have to have 80%. I can do 70. I can do 60. I can do 55, 50-50 if you want. So it's everybody, man. I mean, and it's selected. The employees are selected for that, but then they're curated for that. And again, this is important. We don't just hire for these values. We will fire for these values too. No, you just use that term. But if someone isn't living up to this and they're then an example to the rest of the company of what not to do or be, then they can't stay. They just can't stay. And that doesn't make them a bad person. You know, it just means they can't stay. I fired my own sister. I mean, I don't know what else to say about that. That wasn't popular with my mom, but my sister's fine. So you got to live up to the values. So
if you can't live up to the values, you could probably have a different place that's better for you, right? Exactly.
No one's happy where they don't fit in.
Right. Great story. Great execution. Love it. Questions? Or is that okay with you, Stan?
No, sure. Yeah. If anybody has any.
Questions?
That's when you know you've killed it, when you've answered all the questions.
That's right.
Not necessarily a question, yes. I'm Patty Methvin. I work for the Northwest Arkansas Economic Development District, and we are partners with the grants that for apprenticeships that you have. So how many apprentices do you have right now? Do you know?
Oh, gosh, I wish Brittany was here to tell me. I don't know. I know we the only thing I know for sure is that it's something that we love to do, and we get folks in as much as we can. COVID has been a real bummer for that. You know, even because even when you can offer up an apprenticeship and we're happy to do it, best way to put this, apprenticeships to me are 80% about the apprentice and 20% about us, right? And so when you're not able to get them into that office environment, they don't get the joy of listening to me and April argue in a meeting. I think they lose out. But I don't know how many, but I do know it's something that we love to do, and we think is a super important part of being part of the community.
Well, we appreciate it and love the out of the box thinking for being willing to do something like that. We understand that that's a lot of heavy lift for the employer's part, and so we're excited to get to be just a small part of that, helping with the funding for that. And so I say to everybody on the call, you know, if apprenticeship is something you've been thinking about, you know, we can connect you to some resources possibly. So give me a holler.
Yeah. For tech ventures or tech oriented, what isn't it, Patty?
Yeah, this one especially is for tech. And then there's some pre-apprenticeship grants too for students that you have to be 18 and have graduated from high school. But it's a great opportunity to take some classes and see if you do have that aptitude for IT and maybe which field of IT you want to go through. And we have the grant for it. So we basically pay for all the training for that one. And then we have some other just various types of apprenticeships out there. Bilingual administrative assistant, CNA, and then your typical plumbers and electricians. So I guess the party line is to think outside the box. Your business could be a part of that apprenticeship program as well. Yeah.
I remember being in the council meeting one day with Cassie Deck we're talking about how important all this is. And I made the comment that we need $100 million tech companies as soon as we can develop them. You know, that's where so we can be diversified and so we can be competitive with our other regions. Ross, you want to add anything that you kind of like these kind of companies? How important are they?
Yeah, sure, Tim. I mean, Stan knows this. He lives it and does it.
Yeah.
This is a key differentiator between places that are successful over the long term, because if you're not creating new companies, those are the companies that experience high growth rates that lead to tremendous job creation. And the more, my terminology, knowledge intensive those young firms are. So it's not just technology or IT or software, but the fact of the matter is those industries have what economists call larger multipliers. They pay higher wages, they purchase more services from other providers of services that pay high wages, and just have a larger economic impact. And they add dynamicism into economies, that people don't get complacent and just rely upon a few large companies to tide them over forever, because things change, industries evolve, and there could be a new competitor coming from somewhere else that knocks you out of the ball game. So that's why it's so important to constantly be developing new firms and diversifying your economic base.
Yeah, I mean, Ross, it's interesting why you were thinking. It made me think of something, which is one of the things that I would like to see us do from Movista that we haven't done. We've had employees that grew up here and then left. One of them is running mobile at Tyson, and so forth. I would love to see one or two of our folks splinter out and do something, completely new and different. Maybe based on their experience of having seen the business side here.
Mm-hmm.
That would be very interesting.
That gets a multiplier even richer, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
What does it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say it does, and that's where you get the spin-outs that occur, and in kind of these dynamic entrepreneurial ecosystems. And look, there may be a line of business that Stan says that may compete against an existing line of business. We're not willing to place that much capital there because it's going to do that. But you know what? It's probably a good business entity, and maybe you should go venture out and try it on your own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know Bain and Company has their former coworkers who started up companies and built them come in and address the Bain Company existing team quite often, as I understand it, as an example. Were you going to say something, Stan?
I was just going to say that we actually, we did spin out Capango, which is a really cool product that matches employers and job seekers in a very in a non-resume way. So it's for retail and restaurants and folks that frankly there's not a great consolidated way, because you go through whatever. The big sites are really set up for corporate jobs. That's what it boils down to, right?
Yeah.
So we actually have that in front of the council now. We want to get a grant to really it's a break-even grant but would basically allow everyone in Arkansas to register in this application and then employers to use it for free. So we did spin something out, and I guess I had not thought as much about it until Ross was just speaking. So it's good. It makes me more mindful of it. I certainly have thought about it in the context of the business and what it could mean to the business, because we own the vast majority of that. But that is different too than, say a developer and someone on our business side doing what April and I did and just going out and maybe starting with some seed investment and growing their own company. So we're mindful of it. We have a lot of challenges, and Ross, I know you work on this every day. We have as an entrepreneurial ecosystem, we get a lot of challenges relative to access to capital, and it's not going to get fixed in a day. It's not going to get fixed in a week, and it's better, I think, in a lot of ways than it was 10 years ago when April and I started. But then in other ways, it's not. But I know also that's part of your, the challenge of your work, and we appreciate that.
And Stan, for you to get through the Death Valley, they used to refer to it as, how many rounds, you kind of make a joke about how many rounds you had of how big a size
Oh
until
yeah,
you got the big one?
the first $3.5 million we raised in 3.5 million rounds. That's exactly what it felt like. I can't tell you how many times April and I would go out and raise, let's say, $250,000.
Yeah.
And by the time the check actually came, we probably had 60 of it left because I also love to tell the story of, there's a guy in town, his name's Brian, and I won't tell his last name just to protect him in case he cares. I don't know why I would, but he's a good friend and he believed in us. And he also knew that because of our other life that April and I were good for it. But this is not exaggeration. Nearly 10 times we borrowed the same $50,000 from Brian Dolphin to make payroll, And we would say to him, I finally, after a while, at first I was doing like 5% or 8% or something for 90 days. And then I was like, man, we're paying this back sooner. So what I figured out was how much it cost per day. And I would literally say, okay, I kept it for 21 days. Here's your money back. But listen, that's being an entrepreneur. Like, what are you going to do? Right.
Yeah.
There's two ways to kind of do it, I guess. And when you don't live on the coast, there's really only one. I don't think there's two.
Yeah. Well, I know Dan Sanker's on the call. Did you go through the period where you had to eat the furniture, the office furniture for a while? Or I know Dan says that. What was it?
No, I can totally relate to that. We raised all those. We did a Series A, a Series B, a Series C, a Series C2, a Series D, a Series E, a Series E1, and then Series E2. And there was some debt. And then the spin-off thing is great too. Like we spun off Supply Pike. That was really cool. It's great to see it happen. I think that is really important to Ross's point for building a tech cluster around here. I think the spin-offs is a key to that.
Speeds it up in a hurry, doesn't it? Yeah.
PJ's such a smart dude. He's awesome. Totally awesome.
And Stan, the other issue I think we need to address, this is Ross, by the way, is we need to focus on training accredited investors here in Northwest Arkansas. And we have a new strategy coming out here within probably 3 or 4 weeks that looks at how do we accelerate economic recovery and development here in Northwest Arkansas. And that'll be a key area that we draw upon some recommendations. So anyhow, it's a long-term play, but it has to be accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. It's funny. Ross, I call it second generation wealth. And let me tell you why. Let me tell you why I say that. I say that because it's hard for people who got their wealth in a corporate way, right? And let's call it what it is. A lot of these folks got a lot of stock in these large corporations, and they worked there for whatever 20, and they did very well, right? But what they never went through, so they don't necessarily understand it, is the genesis part, right? What they just can't even conceive is that Sam was 47 years old in 1962 when Walmart opened, and it was that journey that proliferated so much of this. Or go back and look with the Tyson situation. I always like to say, at some point there was just one chicken. There's just one chicken. There had to be the first chicken, and I love to think about that from a Tyson perspective. So Russ, I don't know how you get, how you help people understand that. And I do think there has to be a certain amount of, it's not, people talk about risk tolerance. I think it's bigger than that. I think it's actually almost like a benevolence tolerance, because a lot of money is going to be wasted in the process before we have enough returns overall over and over again for people to get, I'm just not sure that right now. I may throw $50,000 into something, but it's like, again, going back to my sister, it's like letting her borrow the money. Actually, it's a lot better than that. I could get my money back in spades, but I think we need more successes too, Ross. In fairness, we were able to pay back or buy back a lot of shares that had zero basis really, but even say they hadn't been taken back to zero, and they actually were in the cash at $3 and $4 a share, and we bought it all back at like $25 a share. I think that was good, right? But you got to have more of that. So it's a thing, man. You got a big job on your hands. I'm glad I'm just running the old software company, but I'd love to know if you know that.
Those are
Yeah,
great
but you,
points.
but you have to raise your own capital. And let's just say I've been given a lot of seed capital.
Yeah.
Eventually I'll be raising my own, but it is nice to have that backstop.
Yeah. Well, that's true. Different challenges, right? Different challenges.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, other people that we hadn't heard from. Dumas, Garrett, any update from you or any questions for Stan? Is Dumas still on? Yeah, he
I'm
is.
still here. So Stan,
Yeah.
you know, what's it like trying to hire people in the COVID world?
Well, to be candid with you, I haven't been trying to hire a lot.
Well, actually, I said that wrong way. Are you having struggles with folks dealing with the COVID world that you've already got as employees?
You mean like emotionally and sort of mechanically speaking?
Yes.
I think that people, all of us are impacted mentally by this. What I don't see a lot of is an impact on the work. What I do see is some people who are clearly have an increased need to be connected. We opened our office back up on a volunteer basis. We basically said, hey, if you can and you want to, you're welcome to come in, and then we have measures in place. And I was pretty surprised how quickly and sort of with vigor people got back in here after that. So it's clear to me that they're struggling. I just hired a brand new chief customer officer. Actually starts October 1st, and had a long talk with him yesterday. He actually lives in Charlotte. But he's debating whether he's going to come over here, whether he's going to wait for the spring, all that sort of thing. So it's a weird world, but it's the world we're living in. And one thing I'll say about that, I'm glad you asked me that question, because I do want to say one more anecdote or point that we talk about a lot around here, which is, and by the way, we have a weekly town hall for this purpose of trying to keep everyone connected. Every Thursday, we do this long town hall meeting. One of the things we talk about is you can't control the storm, but you can control your ship, right? And so the people who were sitting on the deck of the ship, pissed off at the storm and shaking their fist at it like Lieutenant Dan in Forrest Gump, we don't see them having a lot of mental success. But the ones who are shutting the ship down and battening the hatches and going inside and saying it is what it is and riding and making the best of it, we see having more success. So we try to equip them with the tools that we can. But yeah, man, when you can see some people kind of fraying around the edges, for sure.
And Stan, for your benefit, Dumas runs the Waffle Maker, a great product that Walmart and others sell next to Eggo, better than Eggo. And he had some cases of COVID, and you talking about being resilient and dealing with adversity in a class way. You spent $400,000 on PPP year to date. Last time we talked, how's our things going, Dumas?
We've sort of plateaued on positives. We've had one or two here or there, but so we've never shut down.
Right.
But you can see the wear and the tear on the employee. So even though we've got everything in place, and it's not just us. I mean, I've talked to several manufacturers on the food side. Absenteeism is up. Productivity is down. It's just taking a serious toll across the business.
Has everybody recovered that had the virus?
Yeah, and it's not even, I mean, it goes beyond that. I mean, I'm not necessarily saying this is all virus related. I like the analogy, you can't control the storm. This is all part of the storm. So now they've been worried about that. Now they're worried about their kids at school.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of things stressing on them, and it has clearly impacted the level of work. Now, I'm dealing with a different sort of employee than you are, Stan. So I'm dealing with an hourly
Yeah.
a 12-hour shift. So, we don't have a Tyson plant here, but it's much more like that.
Yeah.
And
That's
pay
interesting.
keeps going up, and honestly, really struggling to hire people.
Wow.
I'm struggling with the whole concept that unemployment went up. I thought we were paying okay and looking at raising. I talked to somebody last week who he's paying 15 and a quarter to start, and that's for an unskilled job. He can't fill it. He's got openings across his lines.
Wow.
And a lot of that driven by the assistance on the unemployment.
Well, for the longest time we said yes, and so we didn't get upset about it back in May, June, and July. But we're into the third week of September. I mean, and granted, I've read some of the studies where if you look at April through July, we've had the highest savings rate for folks that make less than $70,000 a year that we've ever had. They clearly put it away, but it's only going to last so long.
Oh yeah.
And so that's the big struggle. And I know you work with them a lot, but Walmart's whole deal last week is not going to help. I mean, it's going to make it really, really challenging. And it's going to be really interesting to see how they respond, because I've talked to several CEOs. We're all about to line up and say, look, you just raised the same class of worker we have. You raised it 40%. And you're telling us we can't have a price increase?
Right.
At some point, this has to flow through.
Right.
They want to complain about shorts. I walked 2 stores yesterday for 2 hours. There's shorts all over the building. We're all fighting the same fight.
Of course.
They're, but they've gone back to finding us for it.
Is that right?
It is a very challenging time. I'm trying to just control the ship. But
Well, hang in there.
It's going to be an interesting next 6 months, because our big fear is we had to make our first decision on Friday. So we had our first management level person whose son had to quarantine because of contact on the school bus. So do we quarantine that person? I mean, the trickle down effect, we're spending a lot of time trying to make plans for the fall, because we're concerned about what does all this look like when people really start to get sick in the wintertime. Really enjoyed listening to you. Thank you for your comment.
Yeah.
Thank you for your input.
You ever want to kick, but one thing I do want to say, so everyone knows, I'm staying at Movista.com. One of the advantages of being the first person, or one of the first two, is you get a good email address. Staying at Movista.com. And if anybody ever wants to talk about anything, kick the ball around or just chat or whatever, please, I'm so proud to be part of this community, and I want to help. And we as a company also, by extension, want to help any way we can every single day. So, if you ever want to talk about that or just lament your plight in life, do it.
Yeah.
That's
Stan,
what the CEO forum is good for.
Well, thank you, Sam. You live that way, and we appreciate the way you are so much. Dan Sanker and I want to buy you dinner Thursday night, by the way. And hey, here's a great way to wrap up. If Stuart Nance is still on the call, let's ask him for an update on the Marble Falls Johnny Morris purchase in Newton County. Stuart, can you give us an update?
Yeah, he's blowing and going. All I can say, he's got, an army of dozers and trucks and backhoes and track hose, digging and cleaning up. I knew how I'd share some pictures with you, but we had an opportunity, my parents and I did, to talk to him. He wanted to interview my parents because we have the land adjoining Dogpatch to the south, towards the Buffalo River. My parents go back multi-generations, so they've got history that Johnny wanted to capture. So he personally interviewed Mom and Dad and shared with us that he doesn't really know what he's ultimately going to have there, other than it's going to be outstanding and spectacular, because he loves the Ozarks and he loves the Buffalo River a lot more than I ever even knew. He never acknowledged publicly, but he's got a real affinity for Newton County and the Buffalo River and ecotourism in general. He's, the only thing definitive he said about Dogpatch, and it won't be called Dogpatch, it'll be called something else, probably Marble Falls or something like that.
Uh-huh.
But he does hope to be open a year from now with phase one, whatever that is. But phase one will at least include the trout farm and the grist mill, and then the bridges all rebuilt to be safe for human traffic. And then beyond that, he doesn't really know. His design team is still working on the plans.
Stuart and I got a bunch of pictures of ourselves on that railroad truss. It looks scary as heck. We're gonna gather them up, and they'll be fun. That's a great canyon down there. I sure hope we'll keep pressing to make that Nance Canyon. Okay, right below Marble Falls. I think that ought to be Nance Canyon.
Good luck. I hope so. Be nice.
Well, he's a class act, Johnny Morris.
He sure is.
Yeah, Stuart sold the property to him, and we're so glad he did. He gave him a good deal too. So thank you for that, Stuart. All that hard work you did.
We call that the biggest little deal in Newton County history.
Yeah, it sure is. Stan, thanks a million. You've been great.